Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. Let's talk a bit about Jermaine Franklin versus Anthony Joshua, which is at the O2 Arena in London this coming Saturday. Before we get into the fight, let's talk about two sort of little side issues. I mean, I could have done separate videos on them, but I might as well do them all in one go. Number one, there was an interview with Frank Smith in Boxing News last weekend, and he said, he was asked about the slow sell. Supposedly the tickets aren't moving, and is Joshua as popular as he once was? Blah blah blah. Why can't you sell the tickets? All this sort of stuff. Well, what Smith said was, Frank Smith, of course, is Eddie Hearn's little wingman, and he said, "Well, there's a reason for this, and that is that tickets are not available on the secondary market. They're not, or you're not allowed to sell them on the secondary market." Well, that's interesting because many years ago, all 5-6 years ago, which in this day and age might as well be the Middle Ages, AJ and Hearn and all of it, they were always saying, well, he's sold out the Wembley Stadium in record time, in 15 minutes and all this stuff. And of course, that was a load of old fanny. We all knew that. It was basically a barefaced lie by Mr. Hearn and by the Matchroom team, because if you went on secondary ticket marketing places like StubHub, which had a close relationship with Hearn and do with Warren and do with most promotional outlets, whether it's music, boxing or anything else, you would see entire swathes of tickets for sale. Entire blocks of them were for sale, meaning that, Matchroom moved them over to, or sold them essentially to StubHub, and StubHub would sell them at an extortionate rate to make money. And so much for the fans. The fans again come in second. And when he was asked about this, Hearn, back in the day, though, all those years ago, he was just as mealy-mouthed and just as avoiding of the question as he was with the whole Conor Benn thing. So, the rot, I never ever trusted Hearn ever. But now the secondary market is supposedly not in operation, or that's what Frank Smith said, hence the reason it gives the appearance of the tickets aren't selling, but really they are. They're selling slowly and steadily. It's a slow burner. Well, that begs a question. The question being, well, if that's the case, well, what about the old days? And so what you're saying is that they weren't really sellouts, those Wembley Stadium fights, because what you're saying is, well, we had the secondary ticket thing in operation, so we sort of shifted them over, but then they were still available, but we called it a sellout, but they weren't. It wasn't really a sellout because they were still available. Now we're not doing that, so that now it's a proper sort of slow sell. And well, you can't have it both ways, Frank. Either they were selling out back then, or they're selling out now. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't have it both ways. Basically, Hearn, Frank Smith, and Matchroom, and Sky as well, because they were with Sky at the time, created this myth that those fights were selling out. Those stadium fights were selling out quickly, when really fans were having to go to secondary sites to pay extortionate fees. That was the bottom line of it. So that's the first thing. The second thing has more to do with the fight, and that is that Jermaine Franklin has taken out a lawsuit against Salita Promotions, and he's claiming exploitative, oppressive and unethical business practices. Now, I don't know the exact details because not a lot's been said, but what he's basically said is that Salita Promotions said, you've got a choice of these two fights, take it or leave it. And there was no real negotiation going on. Agree to the percentage that we're paying you and the terms, or you don't fight. And Franklin is saying this is unfair. Now, I don't know what he got for the Dillian Whyte fight, but I can't believe he's not getting well paid, or he wasn't paid for that, and he's not getting, wasn't well paid for that, and he's not getting well paid for the Joshua fight. Joshua is pretty much a meal ticket for people inside and outside the ring. So I don't know about this. I don't know. This is the big question is really, is it going to affect his performance on Saturday? And it might do. It depends. I don't know much about Jermaine Franklin as a personality. I don't know what his psyche is. Some people can push it to one side, a lot of the Fury fanboys in defence of Fury have been saying, well, his wife's having a 7th child and therefore he's not mentally ready. And all right, well, why did he talk all that crap then? Why didn't he just say, well, I'm not ready because my wife's having a kid? clearly, if that is true, what the fanboys are saying is Fury. It's not like he can spin different plates. If his missus is having a baby, he's going to have to, concentrate on his box, and he can't do that. Okay, fair enough. But with this, it's slightly different, of course, because it's more to do with the business. It's not a family matter. It's not a personal matter. And it will be interesting to see if Franklin can handle the sort of outside the ring stuff, can put it to the back of his mind, can compartmentalise everything emotionally as well as mentally, and go in there with Joshua and give a good performance. Because there's no doubt that his performance against Whyte was very good. He took him the distance and he shook Whyte badly. I think 10th or 11th, was it? I can't remember offhand. And the guy's not a hitter. He's not a big hitter at all. Out of 21 wins, he's only got 14 knockouts. He's not the biggest of heavyweights, 6'2", and he came in very heavy for the Whyte fight. I'm wondering if he'll come in a bit thinner. Or maybe he's just not a body beautiful. I don't know. But he gave Whyte a very good fight. I thought Whyte edged the fight, but could it have gone either way? I thought, I'm 60-40 Whyte. I definitely made him the winner when I scored it as I was watching it live. Franklin's 29, so he's not old for a heavyweight. And that was a majority decision that he lost to Whyte. It wasn't unanimous. It wasn't wide at all. Prior to that, I mean, you look at the guy. He was taken the distance by Pavel Sauer in 2019. He didn't fight for 2020 or 2021. Came back with a rather uninspired five round TKO win over Rodney Moore. I mean, it's nothing. So prior to Dillian Whyte, he'd only had sort of one fight in 3 years, and that was against Rodney Moore. So now he's coming into the ring with AJ. Now, AJ, of course, has, a new trainer. He's got a new training set up. He's over in America doing his work. And I mean, how's he going to get on? What's he been studying in the gym? Is he going to be able to implement it in this debut, if you like, with his new training team? All that is speculation. We can't really. You would think Joshua coming off back-to-back defeats to Usyk would be he'll at least be a little bit nervous, especially following the 2 defeats. He's got new trainer, new training set up. He's been training out of his comfort zone over in America. What's he going to do? How's he going to react? I would expect him to be slightly nervous coming in, because I don't think he's a weak person. But there's no doubt that. I mean, even people who are fighting men who have lost, they're forced to sort of reflect. They're forced to maybe even second guess themselves. And there's no doubt that between those 2 Usyk fights, AJ's mentality had kind of flitted away. Something wasn't right. He gave that infamous IFL TV interview about a year ago, and his mind seemed to be all over the place. And then he went in with Robert Garcia, and it didn't really work out. He lost a split decision, but it was unanimous as far as I was concerned. Then he had that meltdown outside the ring. So clearly he's trying to rediscover his mojo, his fistic mojo, and I always say his fistic identity. And Jermaine Franklin is probably a good person to do it against, because he's not going to roll over. He's coming to win. He's not a big hitter. He's not that big, AJ's 6'6" to 6'2". AJ's got all the experience in the world against world-class fighters, even though he hasn't beaten them all. Franklin, apart from Whyte, no real world-class experience. How do I see this fight going? A lot of this is pure guesswork, because there are too many intangibles. There really are. So what I do whenever I try to predict a fight is I'll say, well, both guys are at their absolute optimum. Okay, both guys are going to be physically and mentally prepared. Now I think, but at the same time, I'm not going to ignore the fact that this is an AJ coming off 2 defeats and with a new setup. So I think AJ will come out a little bit reticent. I think he'll try to be aggressive, but not reckless with it. He'll probably fire the jab consistently, maybe hang a couple of right crosses off it. Franklin, I don't think Franklin will start quick at all. I think he'll be quite happy to lose maybe the first round or 2, but he'll be having a look. He'll be, looking at the opponent, trying to see a few gaps. He did this with Whyte. Whyte, of course, is a much smaller man than AJ, or not, well, in terms of dimensions. And I see AJ gradually working his way into the fight and possibly even flooring Franklin. But Franklin don't strike me as someone who's going to roll over. He's also got the experience of coming to Britain before and fighting Whyte. And he's got an axe to grind because he thinks he won that Whyte fight. So I see him, even if he's floored, getting up. He might have to grab and hold. I don't think he'll win many rounds. I think AJ will sort of box fight his way behind the jab. Maybe get a bit brave. I think Franklin will hit him with individual punches, but won't be able to land combinations. I think AJ is too big, too rangy, too long. And AJ's got underrated skills, he has, and underrated footwork, actually. I think Franklin will mostly stay out of trouble. There might be rounds where he looks hurt. Like I say, he could go on the floor. But I see AJ gradually gaining confidence as the fight goes on. His corner, I think, will tell him to not get too reckless, to carry on, box punching. The old boxer puncher thing, I think, will apply to AJ. And I see him pulling away down the stretch. And I'm going to say that I see a decision win, a wide, unanimous decision win for Joshua. I don't think he'll stop Franklin, although he could. He's got the power. Has Franklin ever been on the floor in his career? I don't remember reading that he had, although I haven't seen a lot of his fights. But I think that the AJ Mark II or Mark III or whatever it is will outbox Franklin using power as well. He's going to have to get Franklin's respect because Franklin himself can box a bit. But I just see AJ gradually pulling away, probably in the middle. Maybe a few of the middle rounds will be a bit. Franklin might come back into it when he realises he's behind after 4 or 5. But I just think AJ can contain Franklin. Franklin's going to be crafty, going to look for pot shots, going to look for counters, and he might land a few. But I got this down as a sort of 117, 111 for AJ on points, yeah. So let me know what you think. Give me your opinion. Very few of my... don't bet any money on this based on my prediction, because very few of my predictions are accurate, or a lot of them aren't. Let's put it that way. It's 50-50 at best. But yeah, let me know what you think. Leave your comments below, of course, as always. And subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the like button, and we shall speak again. Bye for now.